Legends of the dance floor. A piece of paradise. Larry Levan story.
Whatever happened to the day we met on King Street? All we ever wanted to do is sing and dance. Hey, yeah, maybe we could go back there and look for King Street. But sad as it may be, people, we never got the chance. Oh, whatever happened to the days we met on King Street?
Good evening and welcome to Legends of the Dance Floor. Eddie Gordon and myself, Lenny Fontana, would like to welcome you to the Larry Levan birthday show. We have accounts from DJ Victor Rosado, Taana, Gardner, and DJ David Depino, all giving you their journeys into paradise. So let's go to Victor Rosado and listen to his story.
New York City was, wow, it was really something else. If you had the Times Square area, you had everything from Playland to porno theater to bars to dives. I mean, you had everything you could possibly see in a movie. You got it in New York. New York definitely had it all. And some things you would only see in New York. It was really something, taking the trains with all the graffiti, and it's just, it was rough. It was really rough. Sometimes I trot up to the Bronx, and it was rough, man. It was not easy to live in New York, but, you know, the testing grounds here would soon prove themselves worthy of shaping your life to be ready for a lot of other things. I mean, if you made it in New York, like they say, you can make it anywhere. But with all its downfalls, I wouldn't trade it for the world. New York was a wonderful place to grow up in, with a lot of things that nurtured me and a lot of things that I still do today and I still enjoy. And I will teach my kids or my son to enjoy them as well. Along this path of meeting people, I found myself going to different clubs. Some of them, you know, was like the Mud Club, the Loft, the Saint. The way I found myself after going to the garage, well, I would go down and say, well, let me go and check out what's happening. And I found out where the area was, and that area of town was more commercial rather than residential at that time. So it was okay. People hung out in the streets. When I got down there, I would just go upstairs, but I met people, said hello, didn't matter what walk of life they were from. I was trying to get in. I got denied quite a few times until I met some people and said, hey, you know, maybe you'd like to come in. I'll take you as my guest. Because you had to be a guest to get into the garage. Would have a membership, kind of like the Loft. You had to be invited or have a card. So I finally one night got in. Then eventually I got to know Noel and a couple of people, step through the wooden doors in front of the building at 84 King Street, and it was a cavernous garage with nothing in it. And to the left was a booth. Next to the booth to the left was a entranceway, which then you made a right turn, and it was the ramp with the airport lights going up both sides with a hand railing that was painted yellow. The walls were painted black, and the opposite wall from the railing had these gigantic cutouts with these big, like kind of the fans that you see in Hollywood movies, because it wasn't air conditioned. It was more like air exchange, and people were just sweating and stuff like that. And then, you know, I would hear the fans come on. It was a tremendous noise because they were industrial fans, but nothing to overcome the sound of the booming bass hitting against the wall. I mean, I thought the wall was going to come crumbling down. So I got my ticket, walked up the ramp, gave it in. I was then greeted by a door person, which clicked the number of how many people come into the club. There, I found myself at a mezzanine. To the left was a coat room, to the right, 2 changing rooms, and to the front of me was a huge lounge where people just got away from the music a little and socialized. And there were 2 entrances, one through the lounge and one in between the changing room and the lounge. There was a hallway, which then you turn the corner to the left and there was the big dance floor with the lights and the amazing sound. When I first got in there, I saw the gigantic speakers. I couldn't believe the sound that was coming onto the dance floor and the way it felt. I mean, I was overcome with the way the bass kind of aggressively pounded on your chest. I just felt the floor flexing up and down. It kind of scared me a little because it was new to me. I had never experienced a club this big to this magnitude, and people just seemed to be in a trance. They just seemed to be going with the music and really just flowing. You know, everything was really happening as if everybody was part of everything, all as one, like one unit, you know. And then at times there will be different parts of the room doing different things, but all definitely as a group. I looked up above before you walked onto the lounge, and there was Larry's booth. It kind of reminded me of an apartment. The lounge had all types of confections. You know, I saw the theater. They had a small theater through a dark area, which had bleacher type seating, playing all types of movies. And then later on, after a couple of years, I remember they made the rooftop lounge, which was very nice because although they had music up there, it was not loud. You can go up there, get fresh air, sit down, socialize, and whenever you hear something coming through the small speakers, you'd run downstairs to the dance floor to hear it in full bliss, full magnitude. Bonds, which a friend of mine, Kenny Carpenter, I had met prior to that at the Infernos, one of the first clubs I went to as well, with DJ Renee Hewitt and Kenny Carpenter on lights. He had been kind of discovered by Mike Stone to do Studio 54. After that he was doing Bonds International Casino on 45th Street and Broadway. So we would go to Bonds on a Saturday night now. I go to the garage on a Friday. One morning after the club, because they would last till daylight, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, Kenny Carpenter tells me and a friend of mine that is now passed away named Melvin Scurry. He said, hey, you guys doing anything, you know, after the club? He says, well, no, we're just going to eat breakfast. He says, forget about breakfast. Come on, let's go hang out. You want to go to the loft with me? I said, oh my God, yeah. I mean, but we just finished dancing to you for 10 hours. He says, don't worry about it. We just go like this. We'll go. I'll get you guys in. You don't have to pay to get in. We were greeted at the door. And Kenny said to the woman, Penny, inside that we were his guests to clear it with David. So that she went inside and cleared it with David Mancuso. Shook his hand. We proceeded to party and hang out with Kenny, and my first impression of the loft, I was like, oh my God, you know, it's like dying and going to heaven. The sound system was impeccable. It's the way it was set up, the dynamics of the same records that I owned, but they sounded so different, so clear, so magic. I started to do lights for David, and we took a liking to each other. Our friendship took off. I was invited to picnics during the week at the loft when they would have their meetings and their musical homework session, and he started telling me how to take the arm off of the record when it finished, and if he was busy, just to do that. You know, Larry would come visit him there unbeknownst to me, and they would hang out upstairs in David's room a couple times that I played over months, years even. And I said, okay, don't be so surprised. It's not the first time I've heard you play. I've heard you play many times. I've been here to visit David on nights where he didn't play and you covered for him. And I enjoy the way you play. It's not the first time I hear you. I said, come by on Saturday, not a problem. If you're going to bring anybody, just bring them and I'll clear it. So I did just that. I showed up with a couple friends, my cousin Johnny, and Larry and him hit it off very, very well. They were like two peas in a pod. They were both crazy. So I went to the garage and we started hitting it off. I would pass him records when I thought they would be appropriate to what he was playing before and he didn't find something to play. And we hit it off that way musically as well. He started talking to me as the weeks went by, asking me questions on why I like to play music. I would be sincere with him. You know, I told him I play music from my heart. I don't play for the money. I don't play for anything but just to get satisfaction to my soul and my heart. So I'm spiritually tied to this. I told him, he says, well, you helped David and he can't afford to pay you. Why do you still do it? I says, well, Larry, I play for free. It doesn't matter as long as I can play. And he says, what's one of your fondest wishes? He says, well, Larry, I'm gonna tell you, I would love to play here at the garage, if possible, one day. And I know it's not gonna happen, but a person can only dream. He says to have command of what you do and what you do to people. To be able to do that is, for me, a dream. So we left it alone and we had a good time that night. And I had mentioned to him beforehand, my birthday, and it just so happens my birthday is July 23rd. His is July 20th, 3 days apart. He was celebrating his birthday 2 weeks down the road. So we prepared for that. And that night, he is playing a record. It's about 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock, and the room is packed. He's playing a record. He says, listen, Victor, I'm going to the office. I'll be back. I said, but Larry, the record's gonna end. Why don't you play the next record and put on the wrong record? And then, no, I'll be back. I said, Larry, the record's gonna end. He says, Victor, here, play. Happy birthday. And that's how I got to play at the garage. And he came back about an hour, 45 minutes later, and stayed on the lounge side relaxing and fell asleep because he said that he had never met someone that could continue the energy of music after he had played before. To continue that same energy for the crowd and not lose the crowd was something special, and he had never encountered somebody that could follow his energy without any interruption until I came. Those were his exact words. That's how I played at the garage.
Legends of the dance floor. A piece of paradise. Larry Levan story.
First of all, I was nervous. The first record, which was Spank, Jimmy Bohorn, I went into that, the crowd screamed. The energy was so intense that I had to push away from the console. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, so I pushed away. And then I came back, my hands were shaking, literally, shaking. So I placed the next record on the turntable, which was Xaviera Gold's You Used to Hold Me. And I had put the needle on the record to cue it, and when I went to go pick it up to re-cue it, I picked up the cartridge off the wrong record. I picked it up off of Spank, and the crowd screamed. I didn't know what to do in a split second, so I put the needle back on the record, and it went right back into the break. And the crowd screamed twice as hard. They roared. The room actually roared with screams from people, and they started partying even harder, throwing their hands up in the air, screaming Larry. And then I went into You Used to Hold Me, and it was just so intense. I think my hair was standing up on end. If I had to picture myself, it was like if I was electrocuted with emotion and sound.
You are listening to Legends of the Dance Floor.
I took someone up to the booth in the garage, a friend of mine. He was in the lounge end of the booth, so Larry came over and says, listen, you gotta go downstairs. And my friend told him, but why? I'm not in your way. He says, because you're breathing my air. So I want you to leave and go downstairs. This is my space. That's exactly how it happened. And he would often be very, very upfront with people like that, but he was such a sweet person. Really, really was. What a great guy. A person that loves their mom, a person that loves the family. He did a lot for a lot of people. He opened doors in the industry for a lot of people that are successful today. The Choice was actually the Loft at the 3rd Street location between Avenue B and C. At that time, I guess David wanted to take a break from everything, and he took a break and rented the space out to a Mr. Richard Vasquez, which, by the way, I have to make and clarify, Richard is a wonderful person. He gave us a home when we really didn't have one to go to, along with Hector Cruz and Greg Day from Wild Pitch. Hector was from House Nation. These people did wonderful things for the community, for the dance community, for people who didn't know what to do, were lost after the garage closed. We lost our home on a Saturday and on a Friday night. He gave Larry a job. He gave me a job. He gave quite a few DJs a chance to really get out there and get their names known. The Choice was rented by Richard from David, with sound system and everything, although Larry wanted to change some of the sounds around, but this was Larry through and through. He would always tweak the sound wherever he went to make it his, a little more personal. So we would work there. It was exciting. They had some nice parties. It didn't have the excitement and magnitude of the clubs that came before, the Garage or the Loft, but it was great still. It was somewhere to listen to good music and be together and hang out, until something else happened. Around the same time, we were starting to travel to Japan, and it was around the time of The Choice first opened that they asked me and Larry to go to Japan. So new things were happening. Really loved The Choice because it was like a family thing. Richard had his home. He opened his home to us. He would often cook for us, and Barry It was a brownstone building. Richard lived upstairs in the duplex and Barry lived downstairs in the apartment. Barry and Larry were very, very good friends for many, many years. So we all congregated there. I mean, it was, the Puerto Rican, the Japanese, the black, everybody was in there. It was a melting pot, at the Choice, at his house. I mean, it was ongoing, really, really wonderful. After the Choice came the Japan tours and traveling to London, and we just started to maybe not lose track, but just to separate a little to try to regain some of the momentum. And then Larry and I met in Japan once more, and we played a party or two. During the time of the Choice, by then Larry had lost all of his records, and I had always collect a record. Now, if I had a copy of a record and I found another one, I would always buy it because it was so cheap back then. It was pre-eBay, so everything was cheap. You could find records that cost $100, $200 now on eBay for a quarter, 50 cents. So I would continue to buy them. And it paid off because when Larry lost his records, I went and I bought an old trunk, I believe at the Army and Navy or one of the thrift shops, and I filled it with records for Larry, records that Larry would play and was famous for playing, and people expected him to play these records when they went to listen to him play. I filled up the trunk with these records that I had 3 and 4 copies of that were his records. I took them to the Choice. I said, Larry, here. He says, what's this? I says, well, since you don't have your records anymore, these are copies that I'm giving you from my collection that I know these are the records that you love to play, so you can continue to play. And he was really put back by this. Looked at me in a different way from this moment on. He really, really knew that I cared.
Hi, my name is Frankie Knuckles, and today is Larry's birthday. Happy birthday, Larry. Matter of fact, happy birthday, Wong. When we were kids, Larry had quite a few different nicknames, and Lalenji Wong was one of his names. So any of our close friends that we grew up with probably get a big giggle out of it because they remember it. But happy birthday, Wong. One of the things I want to say about Larry is that I think one of the things that made him so legendary and so spectacular, not just to us DJs that grew up with him and revered him and praised him in everything that we do, I think the thing that really reached and touched so many different people, especially the ones on the dance floor, is if you caught him on one of those legendary nights at the Garage, when you floated up out of that club, because you really didn't walk, when you floated up out of that club, you lived, and one of the first things you wanted to do was go home and start playing records, even if you weren't a DJ. You were just so inspired by the evening and by all the music that he played that the first thing you wanted to do, if it wasn't running to Vinyl Mania or any of the other record stores to buy records because you heard him play something fierce, you wanted to go home and start playing records. And a lot of people did. If they had setups at home, they would go home and they would play all afternoon because they were so inspired by that. I carry that kind of inspiration about him with me all the time. Happy birthday, sweetheart.
Next up, Lenny Fontana gets a rare moment with the Paradise Garage heartbeat, Tanya Gardner, who gives us a fabulous account of her garage on-stage baptism and how that night her family grew in numbers by 3,000, plus one special member, DJ Larry Levan.
First question always is to everybody, what was it like for you, coming up? And how did you find the garage?
Find the garage found me.
Well, how did the garage find you?
It did. I had no clue what the garage was. I was raised in a little small town called Westfield, New Jersey, and I never ever heard anything to do with the garage. So here it is. Kenton called me on Thanksgiving Day, 1978. He called because his brother knew of me. He knew me because my father had introduced me to Kenton's oldest brother. And he knew I sang, and he would talk to me about different things in the industry. And then also he helped me get into the Harlem Dance Theater chorus. I did a lot of little things here and there, but never heard of the garage. So I come in to do Work That Body with Kenton on Thanksgiving Day. We're doing this. He's giving me the lyrics. The girl that was supposed to come, she got sick. I show up to do it. There's the guys from Crown Heights Affair and Kenton, and of course they looking at me like, me jumping. I said, okay. So the music started. He tapped me on the shoulder. Got me stomping, got me pumping, got me jumping. They're like, oh God, write the rest of the words. So they started writing the rest of the lyrics. Then I'm sitting there, I'm doing these different things, and I'm growling and squeaking and all this stuff. And they're like, oh my goodness, Larry's going to freak out. Because he had only heard the tracks with no vocal. So that night, they're saying we're going to the garage. I said, okay, what's the garage? It's a club. I said, okay. So I didn't go with them because while I was in the studio finishing up Work That Body, Dr. Buzzard and his original Savannah band, they overheard me singing in the Work That Body session. And they made a request that I stay and do background for their next album. And I'm like, of course. They were like, oh, we only have $100 an hour. I said, I think I can deal with that. So I ended up doing an album now they had turned into Kid Creole and the Coconuts. And I'm working with them in the studio, still not knowing what the garage is. So my first time ever in the studio in my life, I'm doing Work That Body, and I'm working with Kid Creole. That's a charmed life. Still don't know anything about a garage. I heard about Larry, didn't know what Larry did or who he was. Until the record hit that night, and I got so many calls on the phone. Taana, it's a smash hit. Larry wants to meet you. I think you have a label. Blah, 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 blah. Still not knowing. Well, the night that I first did Work That Body, they take me into the club, and I said, oh my God, what do they want me to do? They said, sing the song, Taana. I said, I don't know what to do. I just don't know how am I supposed to act? They said, Taana, my mother, she was there. She said, Taana, they want you. They want you to be you. Everything that you are, you don't have to be anything else. I said, oh my God, and the place was packed, and people were lined up outside around the building, and I'm coming up in the limo, and everybody's whispering, and I'm wondering, why is everybody looking at me? What is going on? I'm a nervous wreck. I can't. My mouth is paste. I put on this pink leopard body, cat suit. And I had heels, I think they were 8-inch heels. I stepped out on the stage, and there was a roar that I had never felt or heard before. And then I stepped to the mic, the music started, and it was over. I didn't even have to sing, but I was having so much freaking fun. I was shaking my buttons, dipping to the floor, patting, pointing, grabbing, and before I knew it, I knew what the garage was. It was my home. Then I said, oh my God, I'm home. Oh God, I'm home. I felt like most of my life, I've always felt like a fish out of water, or I was a fish in a bowl and everybody was staring at me, and life just never felt like I belonged until I hit the stage the very first day at the garage. I was home, but when I hit the stage, I was home. On the stage of the garage, that's what the garage is. For me, it was like, I finally was somewhere where I wasn't like a goldfish in a bowl. I was home. I could be me, and everything I was absolutely received. I had no idea. I was nervous for no reason, because there was nothing but love waiting there for me. There was nothing but a good response to me. I've never ever since then have had any feelings of that since.
Wow.
Since nothing. I've been in arenas and stages all over the world, literally, and nothing has felt like that ever again.
See, I tell people that they don't get it, but
they don't get it.
Legends of the dance floor, a piece of paradise.
They don't get that, and I know what you're talking about. It's a wonderful feeling to have a crowd adore you and love you that much.
Period. They hadn't even seen me. But all they did was listen to me. And the moment they realized it was me, the applause was thunderous. And just so, I was like, the grin on my face has never been the same. My strut has not.
Let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you perform Studio 54 around that same period?
Yes, I did.
Okay, can you tell us the difference between how Studio 54's crowd was to performing Work That Body opposed to, we know how Garage was, but can you explain it?
Oh, that was a great experience too, because I mean, first of all, everybody knew what Studio 54 was. Of course, you see it on TV, how people, I'll tell you, my first experience with Studio 54, I went and they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let me in. I was turned down at the door. This is just before Work That Body hit. They wouldn't let me in. I said, trust me, I will be back, but I'm going to make sure you pay the witch's titty to see me. And they did. But the club itself was like, it's an enormous club. It's got, that corridor that you first walk down. It just gives you this feeling. And there are people of all walks of life in New York just sitting from side to side. And you're being escorted. Well, I was being escorted. And I'll tell you, that's where I met Madonna. I met Madonna when she was doing Holiday. That's Holiday time, right? Is that around the same time?
Well, Holiday is later.
Holiday?
No, Holiday's 80, 81.
Okay, that's when I did Work That Body.
Okay.
I Worked That Body. I did, that's Heartbeat.
That's right, that's Heartbeat era.
Right. I think that I don't remember doing it during Work That Body time. I don't remember. I might have. So I remember stepping out on that stage for them. For Studio 54, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable too. But there's still nothing like the Garage. There's still nothing. Everybody was very, they were reacting to the hits. They were reacting to the song. They were reacting to the performance. But it's nothing like the love I felt. I literally felt love in the Garage. I felt good about Studio 54, but I didn't feel love. There was love. And, that's something I realized. Larry, he was more protective than anybody. He was like, no, she's going to stay here in this room. Because Larry let nobody sit up in his room and get dressed and wait to go on. Not that room. Not his area. Not his little area. Nobody but Taana could. So I just, there was such a sense of protection and then, but everybody seeing that all these key people loved me so much that it made them respect me in a certain way. And so there were things that I didn't, I'm missing it so bad. I'm missing it. What I wouldn't do to go back for one day to that place. Just one more day.
We all say the same thing.
I'm sorry.
No, I wish we can build that time machine like H.G. Wells has in the movie, and all of us jump back one amazing night.
Yes, many amazing nights there for me, of good experiences over and over again. When you touch me, Paradise Express, anytime I came to perform, it was just a wonderful experience. And, I realized that a lot of that is things that, there were things that were done before I got there. There was a lot of ground laid. Because Larry would play me immediately as soon as he came out the studio for mixing. And he would start playing it. So everybody was so familiar with me and the sound that was coming from me, Kenton and Larry, that once I hit the stage, the path was paved. And so it was just like I would just have to ease on down the road. So I just, but I didn't realize in that time just how much magic was going on between all of us. I didn't realize it. I knew it was magical, but I didn't realize that it's a time and space that will never happen again. That'll never happen. People don't have hearts like that anymore. The general public doesn't.
I know, and you gotta realize another thing. That music was fresh.
Yes, everybody, and that's the originality of it. Everybody started from scratch. Everybody had a unique thought and a unique emotion. You know, Dr. Love, he gives you my everything. Come on. You're not going to hear stuff like that anymore. Not anymore.
No, because the era is different now. You know, we talk about the social climate of the United States at that time when you just came out of Watergate. We had an oil shortage, just like we're going through kind of now, but not the same. You had Vietnam just ended. It was a very rough time. People were looking for a release. And this music helped release everybody.
I know, I mean, when are you going to hear, I'm down to the other side, yeah. A brand new day on the other side, yeah. I mean, come on. Just keep on walking, yeah. How you do? These are moments in music that I haven't heard again. Now, I have my favorites of now, nobody's Lolita.
No, and I'll never need no Lolita again. Come on.
Never. Nobody's Lolita. In more ways than one. Trust me. It's broken.
Through your eyes, okay?
Okay.
Explain at night at the garage.
My mother, she couldn't leave with me. But once I got to the door, my mother and her best friend Lynn, they were there waiting. And my mother's saying, no, I'm not getting online. I'm Taana's mom. And it's like, yeah, right. And I pulled up and I get out the car and I said, come on, Mommy. And my mother licked her tongue at the guy, the bouncer at the door. And we went in, and as you walk up that corridor, that ramp, they had pictures of me with little candles next to it, as you walk up. And then when you get to the top of it, it's a great big wall of a picture of me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so thoughtful. And then I went in and, oh God, there's so much. But, okay, most of my best nights at the garage were when Patrick Kelly dressed me. Patrick, one night he put me in this red sequence Marilyn Monroe dress with a swoop Japanese hairdo and I went out to sing When You Touch Me. That night, it was just magical. It was magical. I mean, I got the dress. I got the #1 designer. I had the song. When You Touch Me, just coming in, and Mel had designed these 2 huge hearts. They were like 8 feet tall. But the thing I didn't know is that the 2 hearts on each side of the stage, they actually pumped. So once Heartbeat came on, they blew. Mel manufactured the heart himself. He came up with the creative ideal, had it done. Part of the whole thing. And the heart started beating during Heartbeat. And I'm like trying to keep my composure and laughing, smiling, and just having a fabulous. And I remember turning around and seeing the heartbeat and just that feeling. Never again. It's gone. It'll never come back. Because everybody was in sync with each other.
Legends of the dance floor. A piece of paradise. Larry Levan story.
So much time has passed, but yet it feels like yesterday. You were my best friend, and you showed me that life was definitely something special. I know you were watching over me and all of your friends that you left behind, especially John Brown, who joined you most recently. I love you, and I miss you, and I wish you a happy 57th birthday. Judy.
Eddie Gordon and myself, Lenny Fontana, met up with DJ David Depino, who worked with Larry for over 10 years at the Paradise Garage. You need to listen to what was going on behind the scenes while people were dancing on that gigantic dance floor. So let's go to David and listen to what he has to say.
And then I became friendly with Larry because he was dating a friend of mine named Mario, who was a DJ also that lived in Brooklyn. And then I met Larry one night again in a club in Brooklyn called Broadway that Mario was the DJ, and I looked a lot like Mario, so Larry sort of had this pull towards me to be friendly, I guess, because I looked like Mario a lot. People used to think we were brothers, and I became friendly with Larry. And then I went to Reed Street once or twice more. Then it closed, and I went to Soho Place once or twice with Mario. And then I started going to the Loft. And I was a little more accustomed to the black crowd. The Loft was a little more Spanish, but I was also going to the Gallery, which was whiter, and at the time Flamingo. So I was in the gay world, and club-wise. So everything was changing in my life because the Italian family in Brooklyn was not gay friendly. They were not black friendly. They were not Hispanic friendly. They were nobody friendly other than themselves. They stayed in their own world. So that's really all I knew. When I became friendly with Larry at Garage and started working at Garage, my entire life changed. You know, you meet some kids now that talk about their college years, how college changed them and they grew. I didn't go to college. I didn't go abroad to enlighten myself. Garage was my college. Garage was my overseas enlightenment to the world. You know, Garage changed my whole life. That's why I still do the reunion once a year, because the Garage touched people. So did the Loft. So did the Gallery. Many clubs touched people. To me, Garage was a democracy. Once you got inside, no matter what you were equal. Garage had a straight night on Friday and a gay night on Saturday. And after a year or so, you felt, because music was the reason you went to the Garage. Some Friday nighters came on Saturday, some Saturday nighters came on Friday. And after like 2 or 3 years, Michael then started having special events throughout the year where both groups were invited, and those who were comfortable came on each other's nights, or on that special night they came together, because music was the common denominator. So through music I started to see that the world could change. You know, you say to yourself, how can music change people? But in dance, in happiness, with music enlightening you, you're ready to accept and open your heart to a lot more things. It may sound corny now, but in the 70s, it was a big thing. Music brought the dance floor together and brought people together, whether you were Asian, whether you were Hispanic, black, white, gay, straight. Everyone, once they came in those doors, it was equal. And you didn't cruise, you didn't come dressed to the nines to impress anybody. You came to get your dance on and socialize. 10 years, 11 years with the construction parties, it, you know, was my education to the world. It made me who I am today, and I look upon it that fondly. So I do the reunion parties once a year to keep... It's the only time people now, they're all in their late 50s. If you went to the Garage, you're in your late 50s, maybe even 60s. And the reunion party brings those older people out because they get a chance to see each other and catch up with each other and say, how you been doing? How's your family? Oh, you're a grandmother now, you're a grandfather. Yeah, oh my God, how's this, how's that? So it's a social event, and we give money to GMHC for HIV and fundraising, and it's just a wonderful thing, and people look forward to it each year. And we also do it in July for Larry's birthday, because I like to keep Larry's memory alive, because without Larry there would have been no Garage. Without Garage, there probably would have been a Larry, but I don't know if it would have been to the extent Larry's reputation is today.
So you've travelled as a DJ as well, and one of the things that we're trying to impress upon on this broadcast is that the Garage was the beginning of all the dance business that we know today worldwide, the DJ business that's worldwide, DJs that are household names all over the world.
Right.
But the original Steve came from this 10-year period, this 10-year era at the Garage. And having travelled yourself, would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Well, Larry took it to a different level. First there was the Loft, which was David's house party. The first Loft was David's apartment. The second Loft was an actual big loft space that David lived in, but then Nicky Siano came along. Nicky took it to another level because Nicky was crazy and Nicky was wild. And Larry, being the light man at the Gallery and did lights at the Loft, Larry was the child of the two of them. And because I think Garage size-wise was so big, you know, Loft had 500, 800 people, Gallery 500, 800,000 people. Garage had 3,000 on pack nights, past 3,000. It took it to a different level. And without the intent to get popular like that, the Garage got just as popular as Larry, and Larry as the Garage. They both fed off of each other. It was a symbiotic relationship, Larry and the Garage. They grew together. Because of reaching so many people per night, 3,000 straights on Friday, 3,000 gays, 6,000 per week, Larry started getting remixes. And at that time, David and Nicky weren't doing that. And T. Scott wasn't doing that. The only person who was really doing it at the time was Tom Savarese, but it wasn't a club DJ. So Larry was a club DJ that was really starting to do that. I think there was a few in the white world doing it, like Jim Burgess, and I think one or two.
12 West DJs.
Right, they were sort of doing it, but it didn't take it to the level Larry took it to. And then Larry started getting gigs overseas because of Richard Long's affiliation. Richard would build a club somewhere in another country. He'd bring Larry over to grand open it and educate the DJ in that country on how to work a Richard Long system. So Larry sort of started the DJ traveling. Larry sort of started the remixing because then Nicky got into it, then T. Scott got into it, and so on. So yes, the Garage and Larry started bringing that sound all over the world. Because I think all over the rest of the world it wasn't a black R&B sound. Now it's called house, but back in those days it was R&B. Anything black was R&B. Before that you went to the white clubs and you heard Giorgio Moroder and you heard Donna Summer and you heard songs like that, and that was what I guess you heard all around the world.
And they were classed as what kind of records? Those records?
No, that was disco.
That was disco, yeah.
Well, which got labeled disco. I hate labels.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you go to a club and somebody says, "What does that DJ play?" "Oh, he plays house." You label him. And if you're not into house, you don't want to go. I don't like labels. Somebody, when they talk about me, they put my name on a flyer somewhere around the world. They just dance music because I may catch a rush to play anything.
Whatever you're feeling.
Whatever I'm feeling. If it's a good song and you can dance to it, I want to play it. I don't like those labels because if somebody got labeled techno, if you weren't into techno, you didn't even give the DJ a chance. You stayed away. Hard house. What the hell is hard house? What's Latin house? Because it's got a conga in it. There's too many labels. Personally, I don't like them. I think it pigeonholes you and it makes people stay away. That might otherwise give you a chance and decide whether or not they like you.
One of the things that we said to the BBC is that after they did the history of the beginning of hip-hop, we stated that hip-hop really began with the loops that were being played by the DJs in the garage.
Yes.
Because they would get extended disco disc versions of records from the New York companies and then loop them to get the breaks go.
And it's amazing. At Sound Factory Bar, I was playing a few hip-hop songs because the crowd, it was happening. So I would have a little half hour, 45 minutes of hip-hop. And a lot of those songs back then, especially then, were sampling, like you said, a lot of the disco songs. And kids would come over to me and go, "Oh my God, that song is so great. What is it? What is it?" The sample in there's Lolita Holloway or something. They didn't even know it because they were so young. Right. So it sort of gave disco another revival. Yeah. Like, matter of fact, on Facebook today, everybody's talking about Lolita Holloway had a heart attack. And she was the voice of the Paradise Garage. She was the most sampled person afterwards to have a second life in resampling. And but it's amazing how people would think, and then you play the song later and they think that song came from the hip-hop song, not vice versa. People don't give hip-hop the credit it deserves. I mean, I think now it's gone from being underground and being a black thing, it's mainstream. Like up in the Catskills, and my friend Michael De Benedictis from the Beach Boys, this little club, he plays basically hip-hop all night. Because that's what the young white kids listen to now, as well as the young black kids. Yeah. It's crossed over. It's the music of today, like Elvis Presley. In my mother's day, when Elvis Presley came along and shook his hips, they would first dance into Sinatra and things like that. When they came, they were a shock. Elvis was a shock. The Beatles were a shock. Hip-hop was a shock. And then everything becomes, Little Richard was a shock. Everything becomes the norm. And hip-hop now is between hip-hop and pop. It's what the kids listen to in clubs. So when you say, you go to a club that's not progressive and you say, "I play house," they look at you like, "You play Gaga?" "No, I don't play Gaga." "Do you play rap?" "No, I don't play rap, I play house." "Well, what is house?" You put it on and it's like, this is what house is. I don't like this.
You had CBGBs at their peak.
Yes.
Punk, the Ramones, the Blondie. And you had rap starting to emerge.
Yes.
As well as Paradise Garage sound.
Right.
So New York was a hotbed.
New York was jumping. Okay, when the Garage opened in 77, it actually opened in 75 with construction parties, but it officially opened in 77. When it opened in 77, New York was happening. There was the Garage, there was 12 West, there was Flamingo, there was the Gallery, there was the Loft, there was Better Days, there was the Nickelback. There were clubs everywhere. If you didn't like one club, you could go to another. If you didn't like that, you could go to another. You could go to several in one night. I started in 1969 working at the Sanctuary. Then my sister used to work at the Tambourine. Then there was the Ginza. There was New York was a party town. It's not a party town anymore. No. So back then it was a party town. But everything was, white clubs were white clubs, black clubs were black clubs, gay clubs were gay clubs. straight clubs were straight clubs. So the garage came along and decided it's so huge. In order to get it going 2 nights a week, let's make one night straight, one night gay. My friend Mario, who was Larry's boyfriend, was supposed to play on Fridays, and Larry was supposed to play on Saturdays, but by the time garage finally opened, they had broke up, so Larry was doing both nights. But that's what was so different about the garage. At first, the Friday nights took off and Saturdays didn't. Then when Saturdays started taking off, Fridays sort of suffered a little because it wasn't called garage no more, it was called garage. The straights sort of started backing off. Right. So Michael then thought of anybody with a college ID got in for half price to bring the crowd back. And then when the crowd came back, Fridays got so big and Saturdays suffered again, so then we brought in shows on Saturdays. So then we built a stage. We got follow spots. We made the stage as professional as possible. But the point was, like, bringing both elements in was not done before, It was innovative for the time. At the very beginning, the Hispanic crowd wasn't as big. What was big in the early 70s and the late 60s were gypsies. That was the color in the club. The clubs were white. If there was a color, a flavor walking through, they were gypsies. You'd meet this guy, you'd say, what's your name? And you'd find out his name and go, are you from, where are you from? Some would say Dominican Republic. Most would say, I'm gypsy. And they were the color. And then the more Latins started coming in, they were the color, and then the blacks started sprinkling in, and then it got mixed. And that's when I thought it happened. When it got mixed, and there was everything there. Because if you played a song that was a little heavier bass-wise, a little drummier, the black kids would scream more, and the white kids would get educated to it. If you played a song that was a little more, we used to call it Nya-Nya, a little more Giorgio Moroder, a little more like some of the Donna Summers, some of the Sylvester before Sylvester hit the black clubs. The white kids would scream, so the black kids would see their reaction and deal with it. And before you know it, music crossed boundaries. So the music crossed boundaries, the kids crossed boundaries, the sexuality crossed boundaries, and I thought it was great. And that's what the garage started. And now it's sort of changing again. The straights go to straight clubs. It's
going back to what it
right.
used to be.
The whites go to one club, the blacks go to another club, and the pop people go to these trendy places hoping to see Paris Hilton or Nicole Richie or one of those people, and that's what Scene Manhattan's all about now. Nobody goes for the dance.
So talking about the construction parties, how often will they run?
Well, they ran on, they started doing them like once a month to raise money to fix the club, because the club was huge. And then for a little while towards the end, as it got closer to opening, they were doing them once a week. And they took place in which became the Crystal Room. The lounge was the whole club. The rest of the club was gated off because they had to put dance floors in, they had to put scaffolding in, they had to put Kindorf on the roof. They had to cost a lot of money. Garage was very big, and and Michael Brody didn't have the money, so he raised the money with the construction.
So there must be some people of that era that say the construction parties were better than the garage party.
Well, they were prior to, and nobody knew what garage was going to be. They heard about it, they went to the construction parties, and at that time, that was all Larry's name could pull, 300-400 people, and that's all they needed to raise money and to fill up the little lounge area.
Yeah.
And then the garage opened.
You see, 77, when the garage opened, only 9 years before, you had Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy being assassinated in this country. Mm-hmm. There was still a very tense atmosphere. Again, I'm going to go back to Vietnam and the Stonewall riots. That had all passed by then. And suddenly, the liberation, the flowers blossomed through 77 into that disco period.
All on the West Coast, and it came east. That whole peace, love, and hippiness, and
And then the movements here with the disco labels as well.
That came later.
With Mel Sherring's label, Southside.
Well, yeah, Mel's label started several months before Garage opened officially. I think it was the end of '76 or early '77. West End opened.
Scepter Records?
West End. No, Scepter was prior.
Yeah.
Mel didn't own Scepter. He just was an employee of Scepter.
Right. And they issued the first 12-inch, didn't they?
The first, I don't know I'm not sure exactly. This is debatable. I know the 12-inch started. I think it was Scepter, and it was not successful. And actually, the 12-inch was going to be stopped until Larry's mix of I Got My Mind Made Up did so well, which is now a trivia thing. I Got My Mind Made Up saved the 12-inch. They realized the extra money they spent on more vinyl was costing them more money, and when they weren't selling any more than a 45, they were going to go back to 45s. But I Got My Mind Made Up was the first successful 12-inch, which kept them going.
The first 12-inch that they talk about is Walter's mix of 10%.
I don't know if it did as well as I Got My Mind Made Up.
But as far as success,
Right. Yeah. This is what I was told.
The first I've heard this.
This is what I was told. It could be a lie.
No, it's the first.
But I was told when I ran the record pool with Judy Weinstein at the time, and it was always the DJs talked and record company people talked. When we would go to dinner and stuff, I was always told that I got my mind made up, did so well financially. I mean, I guess 10% probably did well. Some did well because they kept going with them, but then it was really going to stop, and they were going to go back to the 45.
Oh, so they thought it was actually really a mistake doing it.
Yeah, because it cost more money. It was much more vinyl. The pressing plants had to change formats and everything, all that, and it wasn't helping.
Couldn't justify
right. And DJs were complaining about carrying them. Because you could have gone to a club and a DJ carried a little shoulder bag with 145s in it and played all night. Then before you know it, you were carrying crates, milk crates of 12 inches that was so heavy. For what?
But surely the quality of the 12 was better than the 7.
Yes, but the sound systems in the clubs at the time weren't all that great, so you really didn't hear the quality.
Right.
Then they did things like they would press the 12 inches at 45 instead of 33 and a third to try. The quality was better. Everything then was basically 3-4 minute songs. In the early 70s, they didn't have the 12-inch long version, so they were putting short versions on, and they would get a DJ to come in and do a longer version, which were basically editing them longer. They really didn't start remixing until later when Larry really started getting involved. I don't know, did Walter
extended. Walter did his interpretation of
through edits, or
they said he did it in the studio with Bob Blank.
Okay, probably.
Same with Larry. He was working Bob.
Right.
But Tom also Moulton at that time pre-garage was already starting to.
But he was mixing from scratch. They came out with his versions. Right. He didn't do remixes.
Right. He was taking those records and reformulating.
Right. Reformulating
his interpretation.
So they just came out as a Tom Moulton mix, not a remix.
Right.
Larry got the name of the remixer. Like once a song was out, they always wanted a song to go gold.
So Larry would take weeks to perfect a mix.
Sometimes by the time he get it ready to mix, that they were over it on the dance floor. Because he's playing it for 3 months already. So then he'd have to go in the studio and do a whole nother version. And then it suddenly would come out and it'd be a whole new thing. And the record companies would get pissed because the bill from the recording studio would be a fortune. Because he would go in for 2 days each week for about a month, which some DJs would go in for 2 days once and do the whole song. Larry would go in for 2 days, then next week 2 days, then next week 2 days. And then after the whole thing I think we're going to have to change the whole thing. But they sold so well, they put up with it.
Yeah, because today, we picked up a CD today. There was one song with 12 remixes in there.
Well, the original Don't Make Me Wait from the Peach Boys, he was playing it so long. Then somebody came in with a recorder and recorded it and bootlegged it. So by the time the final version came out on Western, they had to put a whole new bass line and everything in and make it different. Because it was already bootlegged and Larry was playing it for so long. It was the biggest song at the garage for like 2 months and it wasn't even out. By the time it came out, it did good the initial week, but people were almost over it because it wore itself out. And then once the radio went on something, Larry would go off of it. Frankie Crocker would come every weekend.
How fun was that?
Yeah, and take a little stack home.
Talk about that.
And then, he'd come and hang out, and Larry would play something, and if the reaction was huge on the dance floor, Frankie'd go over and ask Larry if he had an extra one. Sometimes it was white labels, and Larry only had one. And Frankie was like, and if they're... Sometimes it would be a record that came in the record pool a month ago on a label nobody ever heard of that probably never had a record other than that one record, and Larry would hear something in it and make it huge, and Frankie would go on it. And there would be like a week or two that overlaps where the garage was still playing it and BLS was playing it, and then sort of Larry went off it because he didn't want to. Then people would think he was playing what the radio was playing instead of vice versa.
Right. But he would still play hits as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Just, like to get the floor.
Yeah.
What would you categorize from your perspective what a hit was in the garage?
Well, it's so weird because Larry really, if Larry believed in a record, he forced it down your throat. He'd play it 18 times in a night. He played sometimes every 3 records. He'd put it on again. And they would walk off the floor and he'd pick the needle up. If you only had one copy, he'd put it right back to the beginning and play it again. If they didn't come dance, he'd pick the needle up when it finished, put it right back to the beginning again. And that floor knew he's going to play this all night long, so we better go dance. So they'd all walk back out again and dance, even if they just dealt with it, and Larry would then and then pump 5, 6, 7 records in a row, get you crazy, and then just bring the break of the new song in and make you excited because he only gave you the break. And you didn't realize what it was because it was the break. And then he go right back into another fabulous song, so we bookend it with 2 fabulous songs and play just the break. And then before you know, once the break made you go crazy, start to play the whole song. And then a month later, it was the biggest song at the garage. And then we'd be booking the act.
You know any of them?
Oh, hundreds.
Just anything else over here?
Oh, so many. I'll never forget, I was walking home from the loft one time in the afternoon. It was me, David Lozada, and my friend Dolores. We were walking around the village. We went to the loft. We said hello to Dave in the afternoon. We're walking up, and I heard this weird song coming from this basement. And I said, what is that? And David goes, I think it's coming from the car. I said, no. We're like this, walking around. I realized it's coming from this sub-basement. And I'm hearing, I go, what is that? I knock on the door. This little skinny guy opens the door, really punk rockish guy. I said, hi, what are you playing? He goes, oh, that's our new song, ESG, Moody. I said, well, my name is Dave Depino. I work at this club called Paradise Garage. Have you ever heard of it? No. I said, well, the DJ there, Larry Levan, is very famous. It's a very big club. Can I have a copy of that? Well, we only have test pressings. Can I get one? Are you really sure you're from a club? I promise. He gave me a copy of the white label of Moody. I took it to the garage and we put the wrong side on because there was like two songs, and I said, I don't think that's it. And then finally we put H1 on until Moody came on. And Larry was running around moving speakers on the dance floor. I put it on and Larry perked up and kept doing what he was doing. And I didn't get the reaction from Larry I thought I was going to get because it was so unusual. I put it back on again. Then I made the whole thing play. And then it came on and said, I like the other one. What was the other one called? And I said, yes, Larry, it's good, but Moody is the record. He went, okay. So then he came up and he said, I don't think it's me. So that was squashed. The weekend came, Saturday night, the place is going crazy. He just played Weekend, or he played something that the room was jumping so much intense. The record ended, the room applauded, he blacked out, and you heard the beginning of Moody came on. And the place, it was so unusual and so different, the place just let out a scream because they were waiting. People just went. And then the fans came on and the smoke came in the room and the fans were blowing the smoke, and then they put a few lights on and you saw the smoke blow into the wind, and it's like, what is he gonna do? And then you heard the beginning of Moody and the place screamed because it's that hard. You know, and I looked up to him and he winked at it. Within 2 weeks, Moody was the record. So huge. Then we had to try to find this place. So I said, Larry, I know it's a block or two from the loft. I don't know if we cross the street. We're going back and forth. I go, it's down one of these steps. Down the steps, it was a basement. Down these steps, we finally found it. And Larry went in and said, we want to book the group for the club. They went, book the group.
Legends of the dance floor, a piece of paradise. Larry Levan story.
And we wound up having them at the garage, and that was one song Larry forced down your throat. You know, he would do that. If he believed in a song.
There's one record I have to say that works the sound system, and it's one of the most greatest remakes of all time for me. Would have to be Patrick Adams and Larry's mix, Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Oh.
You need to explain that.
That's like, to this day, it's still, people say Larry's greatest mix. With the kettle drums and everything. When I first heard the kettle drums, I said, you need to edit that part out. He said, are you crazy? I said, the whole thing just drops. What do you do on the dance floor when that happens? He said, it builds and it makes you go crazy. I said, you're losing your mind, Larry. Little did you know. You know, that'd be crazy. I remember the first time I found Everybody's Salsa. And it has that weird edit in it. And I brought it, it was an import. Somebody brought it up to the record pool and I brought it to Larry and I said, Larry, it does a very weird thing. And when he heard it, he jumped. Like, oh my, he thought the record skipped. And he thought it was going to blow the speakers. He went, lower it. I said, no, that's in the record. He goes, why? And then that became the peak of the night. I remember the first time he brought it to the loft, to David, and said to David, now it's going to do something. Because David didn't have a headphone. He didn't cue. It's going to do something right. 3/4 of the way in, it's going to make you freak. But trust me, it works. You know, just little things like that. But Larry's Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Oh my God. The only thing I remember that did that much to a dance floor as Ain't No Mountain High was Relight My Fire by Dan Hartman. When we had Dan Hartman perform at the garage, and we didn't advertise the Lolita, and Dan Hartman had a giant white grand piano on the stage and performed the song. And everybody's like, well, what's going to happen? You know, is it going to be a shorter version or whatever? And Dan Hartman's doing the song, the place is going crazy, and suddenly, just at the part where Lolita would go in, the stage went black, and in the corner, spotlight, and Lolita was there and went, wow, got to be strong. and the place lifted that Larry had to put his hands on the console.
Thank you, Victor Rosado, Frankie Knuckles, Tanya Gardner, Judy Weinstein, David Depino, and Lenny Fontana. Happy birthday to Larry Levan from Legends of the Dancefloor. Tomorrow's Pizza Paradise show, we have the British perspective from superstar DJ Paul Oakenfold in New York, DJ Hiley and DJ Harvey in Venice, California, plus an incredible account from the founding father of the Ministry of Sound, Justin